All right, Benji. Hola.
Hello.
Sorry for the folks at home. We're gonna share a mic because we only have one mic at the moment. So Benji, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful today.
Okay, so let's talk about the T-shirt. What's the shirt about?
Um, it's just I don't know what it's about, but I like all the colors. But I wear it mainly because my mom got it for me.
It's very like psychedelic, House of a Thousand Corpses looking. It's pretty cool, pretty funny. You always have like funny, flashy shirts, or is that just today?
Just right now, I felt really conscious about my weight, and I realized that this graphic takes attention from my belly.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's talk about your mom. Where's your mom from?
She's from Durango, Mexico.
Where does that sit on the geography of Mexico?
It is in like the central part of Mexico, pretty much. Would be north of Mexico City, central Mexico.
Nice. I went to Mexico City with my band. We toured. It was awesome. I'd never thought I'd be able to have the experience to go out there, but it's beautiful. And can you tell me anything about Mexico City? It's just a funny story or anything like that?
I haven't been to Mexico City. Where she's from is from Durango. From Durango, it's like a little small town in that state. So I've never been to Mexico City.
So you talk about TJ a lot in your stand-up. Are you from TJ?
Yep, I was born in a nun's hospital in Tijuana, Mexico.
I'll be there in November 1st, with Chicano Batman performing. So you need to come I mean, do you ever go, or is it something that you just try to stay away from just because for anybody, it's kind of, people either love it or they're scared of it, and I love it. So I imagine you love it as well.
I love it, yeah. No, and I'm gonna clear all my ticket warrants. That way I don't get held up on my way. So totally by November 2nd, I promise San Diego court.
Get your Century Pass renewed.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool spot if you know what you're doing, where you're going. You're not gonna get in trouble or nothing. If you're look if you're the type of person that gets into fights, or gets into trouble easily, in situations like partying, it's not for you, and the culture there too. There's a lot to do during the day. There's a lot of art, a lot of different types of performances, theaters, with the music box, right, or the
Black Box,
black box down there.
Revolution.
Revolution, they have, and then Revolution is a whole other story, during the day and during the night. So, I mean, you need to inform yourself and pretty much plan out the day and know what you're doing because, there's always stupid stuff that happens.
Yeah, I've always told people, like if you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it, just like with anywhere. Some of the best people live, everywhere, but it's one of those things where I hate when places get a bad rap, even locally, like with a town called Desert Hot Springs, where it gets a lot of bad rap, but it's some of the best people, some of the best music, some of the best art comes out of that place. And it's one of those things where some of the places that have that mystique, bad stigma are like, beautiful things. So I'm not Mexican, but I really like dig the whole deal, totally. So where do you live now? San Diego, right?
Yeah, Chula Vista, south part of San Diego. It's in San Diego County. It's about 10 minutes from the border, so it's not that far. It's still, they call it Chula Juana for a reason.
Chulawana?
Chulawana, because there's a bunch of, Latinos.
With dark roots.
Yeah, a lot of those, especially,
The darker the root.
The low self-esteem.
Yeah. I know all Benji's bits. It's great. You're one of my favorite comedians.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, very funny. And can you give us a white word?
Oh, resiliency.
Resiliency. Can you spell that?
No.
Okay. So, who are the comics you brought? Because you brought like a whole 2 cars worth, right?
Yeah, 2 cars worth, and then a couple. Yeah. So a lot of these guys are comedians that I've worked with. Some that I've recently come across doing some contests for the Comedy Palace. Tim Height, he's a new guy. He starts coming in. He's done our Comedy League, which is a competition style based on numbers and comedy. It's all computed in spreadsheets, and then we call it Comedy Ball. And then we have Ryan Archuleta, who won the Throne of Jokes contest, which is a contest that we're doing at the Comedy Palace, and we're finding a lot of funny people. We're in the 3rd round right now, entering the 3rd round. He just advanced. And then we have Mr. Mike Bentley, who is very, very funny. And I don't know.
That sounds like a real comic name, Mike Bentley.
It's a cool name, and the dude is really funny. You know, he never ceases to not make me laugh. You know, and like that. You know, I about a lot of people I like, especially if I know their jokes and they make me laugh over and over. You know, he's one of the dudes. And then also Neil Singh, who obviously, you know, he's my friend, and you know, he's a big fan, and he's been at the Hood Bar plenty of times, and like that, same thing. I know a lot of his bits, you know, and I laugh at him, and I like him, and he's very funny.
Yeah, I think that's when you know someone's funny, is when you know their bits, but you still laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. You try and teach that to new comics, because sometimes, you know, they're like, no, I need new jokes every week, and I'm like, but most of them suck, you know, like work on the good ones, and you know, if when you start to like them, or when people like them, you know, that's why they're good. That's why people like them.
That's what rooms are. You know, you work it out, but there's also a certain point when you need to move past it, I would imagine.
Oh, everything sometimes has a shelf life. It's always, I mean, as you grow as a person, you know, you can't be talking about, you know, doing frat party stuff and you already look like me. You know what I mean? You know, which means I look older now. But, you know, you have to evolve. Your comedy has to evolve, because you're adapting with what, you know, you're trying to give a point of view, the funny point of view, or dealing with stuff that other people also deal with, you know, breakups, you know, your bankruptcy, or white word, you know, or whatever. So
Home loan.
yeah, home loans, you know, but you know, at least in the way I see it, because you know, there's a lot of jokes I can't say anymore because they just don't fit with me, and that's exactly why you're always trying to be open to new stuff. So new experiences, getting older now, jokes. There's a bunch of those, you know, of failures. So you know, yeah, absolutely. You just always have to keep trying to evolve and add to it, you know, and then just keeping it really real, and that way you're always well represented on the stage, you know, what you're saying.
When you go up, are you generally, do you have, you know, exactly what you're going to do? I usually ask a lot of comics because I'm very curious. Or are you just kind of go up there and just trust that you're going to be funny and make up something as you go?
Well, I do trust that I'm going to be funny, and I do trust that I can make stuff as I go, but it's always easier when you watch everybody before, so then you already know what the audience, you know, or at least if you're going first or hosting, you go and see who's there, the type of people. And if you have enough jokes, you know, or you start thinking of stuff right there, you know, that's the first thing for me. But I always have, you know, the jokes that I know I have percentage, and if I see, I look, hey, look, there's a couple right there. Oh, look, there's a guy wearing a Charger jersey. Oh, look at that, she's got dark roots, you know. I already know, and I'm, you know, so it's a combination, you know. But mainly, if you know what you're doing, and the crowd acknowledges you, you know. So I just, that's always kind of it is, you know. I never write it down. The only times I write it down is like when I'm gonna end up doing like a long set, like maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes even. But even then, sometimes depending on the venue. But most of the time, I want to have a good time with the audience, and since it's always everywhere, and I have so many things, you know, I that's how I usually do it. But there is a time when you need to be like, maybe, you know, more prepared the best, so then that way you know, you maximize all your writing, because instead of riffing and bouncing, you know, you set the story, and you know, you do all the calls, and you know, and the tags and the callbacks. So I don't get to do that a lot, but I do when I try to do that when you give me the opportunity. So that's what I give. But most of the time, yeah, I kind of have an idea.
Yeah, so what I notice and I admire from your comedy is either right away you kill them, or maybe the room, again with the Hood, like they're not used to, I mean, this is brand new. This has only been going on for so long, and maybe 60% of the audience is always fresh ears, new ears, never really been to comedy. So they know damn well it's funny, but you're breaking them down. It's like you're like, you know, sandpaper, and it's like before you know it, you hit bone and or nerve, and you know, and you like you don't some, I see some comics maybe like, not so many words, give up, like they're kind of like well, they kind of like put themselves on blast, or say like, well, that didn't land. You don't do that kind of stuff, and that's great. You're just bam, 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 and then before you know it, you know, which way you dig in, TJ. You know, all your bits are they're very good. Like, you know, you're very talented.
I appreciate that very much. You know, and I know the type of other people that you work with. You know, so for you to say that, I really appreciate that, and I think the opportunities. You know, that's why it's not like I don't always give my best, but you know, especially with you, man, I don't want to let you down.
Yeah, and you've always pulled through. And again, not only do you pull through with the comedy, but you pull through bringing, you know, comics like Neil, and he's amazing. Like, you know, he could be on a sitcom.
There's a bunch more, but you know, sometimes when it's short notice, you know, but there's a bunch of really funny comics that I work with in San Diego, and you know, like some of them, they just like, other bigger comics are starting to find out and talk about what's happening here. In San Diego, people already know because some of the comics like Neil that have already experienced, how awesome it is and how it's a different experience. They go and they tell some of the people want to come, the people want to do it, But then I'm like, hey, can you do it? And then most of them, it's Sunday is a golden day or whatever. But so that's why the cats that get to come, and it's worth it for them every time. They love it.
What's it like driving with a car full of comics on the way to a gig?
Well, it's always very different, but it's always cool because sometimes some of those comics I only seen them on stage or in the open mics or whatever. Maybe we smoked a bowl or whatever, but not 2.5 hours worth of conversation. So then they'll ask me questions about I'll ask them questions about themselves and getting to know these comics beyond just comedy is even better because then sometimes we connect even more or you find out other dope stuff that's more it's like, oh my God, but you want to do comedy? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a doctor, but
like I'm a lawyer,
a brain surgeon, but
I won the lottery, but
But I think it's a passion. It's something that's inside of you, like music and things like that, to where the extra doesn't even come into your head because it's like a thing you're doing for yourself.
Yeah. It's that's the easiest way to say it. I've learned for a while that success is that like I feel successful because I'm enjoying a lot of things that I'm doing and sometimes I get paid to do it, which is great, but other times just being able to experience it and then share it with people, especially if it's something dope. That's for me. It's like stage time, great shows. Sharing the hood bar with comedians and them they're off. They love it, and that stuff for me is also very dope.
So, like you said, people are going and talking about the hood in Palm Desert right now in San Diego.
Oh yeah. I have several cats that they want to come down, and like I said, even I let them know there's a long line of hey, let me know when you're going with 2 weeks heads up or whatever. So sometimes that's the best part. It's a lottery because we get really lucky, and I try my best to bring cats that I've seen, and most of the time, 99% of the time, I think I've done all right.
And you're a graphic designer. You helped me with a lot of promotion, and you've designed a lot of cool stuff for me. I always thank you for that. So how long have you been computerly inclined?
Well,
if that's a word, computerly.
Yeah, computerly, yeah.
That's another white word, yeah.
Hey, man, that sounds like it should be on the T-shirt.
Yeah.
But I've been, with computers, I've always sort of, been familiar with it. I'm not that young, but I'm also not that old. And just a lot of it, I community college and Southwestern College, I took some graphic design classes there, but then after that it was, when YouTube started having tutorials and then also trial and error, mistake, Googling and figuring stuff out. But, in the end, it was always just trying stuff and keeping an eye out, and understanding the principles of it. Like right now I always try and make it, every design, itself, very different, at least it has to bring a certain feel. And all that is, it's something that's taken years because it's a combination of where the vision was and then my Photoshop skills, and it, I've been doing it for a while to where sometimes, the vision goes really good. So it's been about 10 years that I really, really, really hit it hard with it.
Nice. And again, not only is it a nice asset, and again, there's ways of making money through that kind of thing, but there is also, it helps with the show. You could have a flyer that looks like is made on paint on a PC and whatever, and stick figures. And in some shows they do well like that, but it's nice to have you spend a couple extra bucks and people it's good to present the show in the way that it should, because why not?
Well, especially if the show is as dope as the flyer. Because
you don't want to sell them something, but again, the shows that we're providing are
so it's that's why they deserve every moment, every second, and every revision. Because we want the flyer to really match what they're gonna get, and then when people do, that's when next time they see the next flyer, and boom, and we keep matching them with the presentation importance for the design for them, and then they show up and they come and they kill, and then some people come back.
It's presentation, but also just wanting to put your best foot forward, and why not, especially if you can do it. And it's nice to have people like you around that help out.
Well, I'm glad I can do it, man. I like feeling useful.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but I've always said, and here's a white word for you, kinship. Yes. For you. The moment I met you, I was, I don't know, but it was always, let's have Benji back. And not to play favorites, but I've always had you, and it's been.
You've had me a lot. I tell the people, so that's why I'm really grateful. That's why, I don't want to let you down, so thank you very much always. Salud.
Yeah, salud.
Water, okay?
So tonight, are you gonna do any new jokes? Because I feel like I know your whole role now.
Yeah, you do, but I always try and add. See, it's different because it's always a game. I'm like, I know I have this, but sometimes I want to catch you maybe on a new tag or whatever. But I have a couple of little bits, and mainly, I'm working a lot into the crowd work, so then that way, I massage them and I get to know them, and at the same time, I'll roll into some jokes that I know will fall, and then at the same time, I'm the comics that are listening, they have an idea sort of, on the type of audience, especially if I'm not gonna be dirty or raw. Anytime I host, I don't be, I'm always clean. You have to host, you have to start clean and just be funny and set the tone, and later on, whatever. But
Yeah, you don't need to shock anyone. You can just be funny as is, and maybe not to take it. That's some people's bits, but you're funny, and your life is your story on stage.
yeah, it took a while to even put it together, but I like to say, I'm funny and I have jokes, so I can. It always works today. I like having the audience feel we're there, especially if they're laughing and they're cool, and then I just like to grab them, and then that way everybody else all the comics will kind of, it's about momentum, you know what I mean? Like defibrillation, white word.
Yeah. So what would you tell a comic that's watching this now? Like if they're curious, maybe they've never got up on a stage and they feel like they got it in their bones or whatever. Like what would you tell them?
Don't be afraid and do it. Most of the time on a lot of these open mics, nobody's even watching you anyway. So just jump and do it. And sometimes there'll be people like me that I love to see, or when people walk out, when I go to open mics, and they're like, oh my God, that was my first time, In fact, 2 weeks ago, there was a dude that walked off, and he goes, oh my God, it was my first time. And he's like, I got no laughs, but I really liked it. And I'm like, you're addicted, you know what I mean? And then there was another two dudes that also went on, and I love to see that because I don't know if that's the beginning of something, So if anybody listens to that, there's always people, that might not support you, but if you don't start, you're never gonna know. So start.
You just have to do it.
You just gotta do it, man, and expect to bomb, but just what if you do get some laughs? I mean, you just gotta if you prepare for it, and if you really wanted to do it, if you think you're just gonna go up there and be yourself and whatever, go ahead, but just start it. Do what you gotta do. Everybody goes different, but if you don't start it, nothing happens.
Yeah, because there's people that have been in the industry for 20 years, 10 years, and there's guys that have been in it for a year and are like, headlining because it's just what, it is what it is. You got it or you don't, or, some people timing, everybody has their own journey, but whether it's 200 people or 1,000 people, funny is funny. That's what I always say. Funny is funny. It does not matter the venue, doesn't matter the lighting, doesn't matter whatever is going on. Either you provide a good show or you don't.
I was just talking to these guys exactly about this because, about some other comics getting mad about some other comics coming up, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of variables in play. I mean, some cats just work harder. Some cats are born with a couple little gifts or get a little breaks, but and some people get breaks and they don't get any better. But that's why, just like what you said, I always look for the funny and I find the funny. And sometimes in other places, people that find you funny, they don't let that funny come in, So I like being the dude to no, man, encourage that new funny, because I have a theory that there's a lot of potentially funny people that one time went to an open mic or blah, 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 and they had the guts to go up, and then some veteran comic was a punk and made them feel bad, and then they stopped doing it, And I've had a lot of comics that want to do that, and then they meet me, and I'm like, no, dude, So, yeah, I mean, funny's funny, man, I mean, you can't deny it, funny's funny.
Like I said, like your thing is you break the people. There's been times where maybe the crowd isn't totally warmed up, but like I say, you file away at it, and they. Whoever, even if they're not there for this show, they're just trying to be cool in their corner or whatever. You'll hear them, you hear them break.
Well, I mean, it's sometimes just about, first of all, being loud enough, and then, saying, funny stuff to where if they catch and listen to you, and then if I catch you laughing, then even more, because then I'll. But yeah, I mean, it's about acknowledging the crowd, so you read all these comedy books. So when I host, I get more than just the first 30 seconds in the set like a normal comic. I get maybe a little bit more. So I'm doing that, acknowledging the crowd maybe for a lot of the comics and getting them in the motion that it's okay to laugh because laughing's contagious and it really does feel good and it makes the whole everything better. So I love doing that, especially when when other people can't, or it seems like they can. In the beginning, they're kind of stubborn, but because then that it means we connected. Once we laugh together about stupid stuff, and they know I'm not serious about myself, but I'm here to have a good time with them, and just saying that with just try me always being, you my jokes, it's a lot of pandering jokes to, with happiness twist in it, but it really does come from that same thing, trying to have them on a thing and twist them around, like, all right, you don't need to be so mean, you don't need to be so mad. It's okay to be happy.
Yeah, and you're not like you're a physical comedian, but there's times where you'll get down and on your knees or lay on the ground or like jump around and but like rightfully so, it goes with the bit. But it's great to see like action in comedy.
I'm trying to like a lot of stuff that I already have. I could always be done better. I think that's where some of these stuff I'm trying to revise, and like I could be more physical. I could be in a different point of view, do more voices, or add more tags like I usually do. But that's why now I'm trying to extend that. When I do I'm telling a story and do a little pantomime on kneeling down, or when I'm really doing this, because that makes it makes everything better.
You're bringing it to life.
Well, Richard Jenny used to do that really well, and he was the guy on the Mask. The friend of the Mask, and he was really good. He's one of the best at doing that, So when I started watching, I'm like, dude, he paints a whole picture with, what he's doing, and so I'm trying to work that more. So when you see me doing that, that's what I'm trying to do.
So Benji, what are your top 3 favorite comedians of all time?
Doug Stanhope, Patrice O'Neal, and Greg Giraldo.
And why are those your favorite?
Because they always make me laugh, and I catch myself always, watching clips of them. I watch a lot of comedy, but for whatever reason, I like them. I respect a lot of how they work or how they worked, and how Stanhope is. He's hilarious.
That's great. Are there anybody else? Like, do they have podcasts? I'm just not familiar with the people.
Well, I don't listen to too many podcasts, or very few, but I just follow him as far as whenever more material comes out.
What's his Instagram so people can check it out? Do you know?
I think it's at Doug Stanhope.
So people can check that out.
Yeah, he's really funny. He always talks about how, like, hey. One of his jokes is like, hey, people would walk up to him at the end of his shows and he's like, hey, I hope you make it, you know what I mean? And this nice, he's like, I thought I made it, you know what I mean? So, he's, yeah.
That's great. So you've met him then?
No, I haven't met him yet. I did get to go see him at the La Jolla Comedy Store once for my birthday, and I took some friends, and yeah, he was everything I expected him to be. Very funny.
Nice. And just while we're touching on Instagram, why don't we plug your Instagram? What's your Instagram handle, and how could people watching this video see Benji and learn about Benji?
Well, I have my website, faceboner.com, and I'm on Instagram at @Benji Garcia Comedy, and yeah.
Cool. And just, can you just tell the people that are watching this, like other comics, because we're really focusing on comedians, music, and other aspects of art and culture and things like that, but for comics that are watching this that don't know about Palm Springs, or maybe think of, they don't think of comedy, can you tell them why they need to come out to the hood and other places and perform?
Well, the 2.5 hour drive to me is a very tiny little, barely any payment for the experience of how comedy is developing here. It's every place has its own thing, but the best thing about it is this place loves comedy. And like he said, sometimes people just got to listen, and they've been showing up, and it's worth it, so if you're down.
Yeah, I mean, it's quality, and I just want, from a comic to another comic, I just wanted to get that across to people because, we're doing this with the best intentions, and this is a big deal for the desert. Again, this is an unsaturated market. There's this whole comedy thing that's been happening. Obviously, Palm Springs and the Valley has had its, Rat Pack, heyday, and all these people that were around. There's a lot of, very famous people that Bob Hope, that, USO, all this stuff. There's a whole lot of history here that people, maybe they either know about it or they don't even think about it, but this is almost like a resurgence. And I tell people this is like the new rock and roll, like comedy, around the world, people are selling out, things like that. But in the desert, man, this is something that's really awesome that's happening. And that's why High Desert Podcast is doing what we're doing. And I'm glad that you're a part of it. And thank you so much for being a part of this. And Benji, safe travels, and let's catch our show.
Let's do this. Love you, Palm Desert.
Any shout outs?
Shout out to the homies tonight, Neil, Mike Bentley, Tim Height, Ryan Archuleta, and David Albert Mercado. I forgot to mention him, but he's the dude that drove us. Very funny dude. Shout out to those guys. Thank you for coming with me.
Thank you, Benji.